She knows the human secrets.
I have a name. May.
I loved this movie. I walked out of this and was like, I have to see it 7 more times.
Right
it's
on.
fantastic. Freya, how did you approach playing Nova, especially with acting against a scene partner when you're not talking?
Well, yeah, that was definitely something to figure out, was how is May going to play a feral human, you know? So it's like it was a double-layered thing to get my head around. And I think I was very much leaning on this kind of rabbit in headlights quality and kind of, I was saying earlier, like a woodlouse, you know, like physically I felt very much like I was always very small, and then gradually I kind of come out of that shell. And I think that helped me in the fact that she's pretending, but also there's an element of kind of reality in it in terms of she's faced with these apes. That's terrifying, you know, and she's never been that close to them before. But then also like there being the small kind of Easter eggs of the fact that her run is different to the feral humans and things like that, which you can pick up on because, you know, she sees the feral humans for the first time in the movie. So it's all her own interpretation. So, but then while having to also convince audiences she is. So it was a balance, you know, to strike.
Peter, Rock is devoted to the rules that Caesar proclaimed so many years ago. Why is he so adamant about following these laws?
Because that's all they have. That's all he has left. You know, that's all that's left of Caesar. And like, even though he wasn't around, the legacy of Caesar in these simple rules, like not rules, but these simple like philosophies or simple worldviews, that apes shall not kill apes, apes together strong, and apes and humans live side by side. Now that's an interesting one to unpack, because, you know, stories and fables tend to last longer than the actual truth, or they get shaped and changed and morphed. And, you know, like literally the notion of, you know, what it means to be an ape. That's what he's, you know, grown up on and been programmed to believe, and that expresses a worldview that is inclusive in the face of the masks. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And like in the twisting of that notion of, you know, how they're behaving is not right in his world. I mean, like that's like and we're in the Bronze Age, right? In terms of like the apes and like the not only the weaponry and like the tools, but like the consciousness. You know what I mean? The consciousness is growing, and he's absolutely adamant about like the consciousness growing from a place of those things. Like who Caesar was, you know, why we are the way we are. So and what he had to say, the significance of, you know, those rules, I would say, is what's going to guide us. If you don't know where you've come from, you don't know where you're going, you know. And so that's essentially, you know, the reason why he believes what he believes.
Yeah, I love that Rocca felt like the most hopeful of any of the characters in the movie, because he had this hope for a better future that I don't feel like anyone else really had keyed into yet. So I thought that was very cool.
And the irony behind that is that he's not 100% correct. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's what I mean by stories and fables lasting longer than the truth. Like, the truth of the matter is, like, when humans and apes lived side by side, apes were in cages. And that's exactly what Proximus is, like, you know, is rebelling against. And so that's I mean, that's such a sad irony that even though he's like the heart, not the heart, but he's like, his worldview is inclusive, he's a little off on his math. Mm-hmm. and I think that's a lot like life. You know, we're a little off on our math. So and I think that lends itself to a greater storytelling that, you know, that is not, you know, saying that this is the hero, this is the villain, it's not absolute. Yeah. And I think that's it begs and it asks us as audience the question of, like, how do we juggle all these things, you know, together and try to find a common denominator. So yeah, I think it's ironic that he is seen as the sage of wisdom, but his wisdom is off a little bit. So the irony is us 100%, right?
Definitely. And then Freya, I love the relationship between Noah and May. Can you talk about working with Owen to kind of create that and the evolution of it through the movie?
Yeah, it's interesting because it always feels so differently to you know, getting to watch it then as a viewer. When we were, you know, playing that relationship, it really felt like May was watching him and just kind of terrified of how much of herself she could see in him, and how much relatability there was, and how much of a mirror was being held up between the two of them. You know, it's easier for her to not see that in order to do the mission she wants to do, but that she's challenged there, and so when I was playing that, and we were, you know, there was some scenes that aren't in the film that were quite pivotal for me personally, that I really feel they connected, because they're people that they've loved have been killed by the same apes. If anything's symbolic of how similar they actually are, it's that, you know, and so I think there was a kind of a great fear in that, and so it was all about that kind of the complexity of acknowledging that, but wanting to stick to what you originally were out to do, you know. And so I think that's constantly kind of a conflict, or not a conflict, because I think ultimately she has to go forward with what she's been meant to do her whole life, and what people before her that she cared about tried to do, and so that is ultimately what she's going to do, but it's made more difficult by that relationship with Noah. And I think it's been made more painful because of that, you know. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's very interesting what they do for one another.
I love it. And then Peter, can you talk about Rocca's relationship with Noah, an ape who's never heard of Caesar?
It's wonderful, because Rocca is an archaeologist, and he's a bit of a scientist. He's a bit of an experiment. And when, you know, he says, you know, Noah literally falls into his lap, it's a chance for him to, he's a teacher, you know what I mean? And he loves to and help this young ape, who help him discover the world as it really is, and not just like this myopic viewpoint. And so he's almost like he's a chance to create another disciple of Caesar, like a chance to spread that message in one ape at a time, you know what I mean? With a fresh palate, and someone who doesn't know anything about the world as it is, and helping him show. It's very paternal, do you know what I mean? It's very like older brother, very crazy old uncle, do you know what I mean? Like and it's the ultimate joy of him for Rocca to help, you know, shape a young mind when they're other, you know, jaded and, you know, corrupted, I suppose, and the people who've diverted from that message, you know. So it's almost like, you know, like people come to your door and they knock on you. Have you heard the good news? Like it's a lot like that, and so it's just joy that he can help him spread this message, and help him understand the world, you know, from this view, like, in, you know, shaping a young mind. It's awesome.
And then can you both talk to me a little bit about working with Wes and why he was the right person to kind of step in and continue the story for Planet of the Apes?
You don't always get a director that can do both, you know, that has the vision and the visuals and the world building, but is also extremely empathetic and intelligent in his direction for the actors, you know. And I was constantly in awe at how he was able to you know, really give notes that you hadn't, it from a perspective that you hadn't thought of, you know, because we do so much work before and you think you know everything, and so for a director to be able to come in and surprise you with something, that is a good director, you know. And you know, he was very good at kind of pressing the buttons he needed to press, and just being very empathetic to what he could do to help, you know, help you if you needed it. And especially with me having to do all my scenes with on my own as well, having him beside me through that really made the process so much better, because I could trust him and rely on him, and And so, I mean, he was just the rock for everyone.
And nobody
he's
was
just so,
more excited.
Yeah, he's just so inspiring.
Yeah,
You come onto set and he makes you excited.
Him
you know?
telling the story, it'd be like, I wish
Every
there was
sound
a
effect.
film, like
Yeah.
the film of Wes telling the story of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That's the movie.
Yeah.
'Cause you could literally, he could sit down by a campfire
Yeah.
and he could tell you the story and like his excitement and his wonder. And he's like, let's come this way. And you just watch him and he's like, this guy's like, he's the most excited person on the whole crew. I mean, he's more excited about this film than anybody, and it's excitable. And he's telling it to you like you're a little kid. You know what I mean? And I feel like a little kid when I'm listening to him.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. And this is next, and he's just like, and the sound effects, and
I had a meeting about literally like it was something like the color of my hair, right? And we're in this meeting room, and suddenly I'm like, and I look down, and Wes is under the table of the meeting room, and he's crawling around, and I'm sort of thinking, right, okay, I don't quite know what this has got to do with the color of the hair, but cool. I'm loving it, Wes, loving it, and so that was like the kind of level of enthusiasm.
I could see him down there trying to like if my head is dragging in the dirt this way, you know what I mean? Like the hair,
exactly.
the dirt will be dirtier over here.
Yeah.
And like that's how the level, how he would just be so inside of it. And like when I first met him via Zoom and he told me the whole arc of the story, I was in tears. I was laughing because it was just me listening to him tell me the whole story the whole time. And I'm like, wow, like we need to film that. That's the movie. Like, people are thinking they're going to come and see us with the posters and all that. No, it's going to be like Wes in front of a green screen.
Yeah.
and telling the story.
No, in ADR, he started doing the voice for one of the apes just for now, like, because they needed to put the line in, and so he's doing it for now. And I was like, well, there you have it.
Yeah, you should use it.
You should use it.
You don't need to hire actors.
No.
You just do it yourself.
You do the whole film himself.
But just the joy. And so you would never know that he's got like all these different things going on. He's a genius, I want to say. Like, I mean, Wonderkin. You only need to go look at his, like, I think it's a thesis film he did called Ruin. And like
there's a
short film, and it's amazing. You could totally see elements of this movie in that movie, and he made that movie, I think, in 2008. So, and he's just so personable. You never know. Like if you walk into the room, you wouldn't know that was the director because he doesn't carry himself around like with this big sort of.
He's not got that ego thing.
No, not
and that's
at
someone
all.
who he doesn't need to because he is a genius.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't need to have that.
Yeah, so he was just a joy to work with, like an actor's director, like a visual, like a VFX director's director. Like just really knowing more than anybody in the room what. In like the storyboard presentation that he shared with us at the beginning, this is that film.
Oh yeah, that was amazing.
This is that film.
Yeah, it is.
Clearly. So we were really fortunate to have someone at the helm who's just super chill, but also ridiculously smart and knows exactly what he wants. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And having to be in the performance capture suits or having to do scenes by yourself, you have to trust. You have to let go after a while because you have I can't tell what it's going to be because it's not rendered. You know what I mean? Like it's not like we shot it and we can run it back and look at it. Yeah. We have to trust that he knows what it is in his brain, and he knows and like he's gotten it from you. You did you get what you need? Yeah, I got what I need. It was great. And walk away from it. Yeah. And lo and behold, I've seen the movie and I he knows what he's doing. Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you.
She is smarter than most.